Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel with myself, Isabella. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, welcome. Before we begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing really helps me more than you know, and I just want to connect with more and more of you. And before we begin, I want to ask you a question. What goals are you setting for yourself right now? So obviously, sometimes we have so many goals in life. Maybe we have 10 goals all at once. I want to improve my turnout, my extensions, my pirouettes, my jumps, all of the above, right? But my question to you is, before we begin, what are your top 2 things in this current month that you're working towards? Leave a comment down below on what those things are and tell me what it is that you're doing to take action towards those goals. Here's a little tactic for you, and I talk about this a lot on my podcast, The Dancer's Mindset. If you focus on those top 2 things, then say to yourself, I'm not going to move onto any other goals until these top 2 things have greatly improved. And so I'm going to prioritize and make it sure, obviously you'll have to carry on with your ballet, and also maybe other things need to be warmed up, such as your feet and things like that. But in terms of like targeted exercises towards something, because often while we feel overwhelmed is when we're trying to do a million things at once. And doing a million things at once makes us do basically lots of things mediocrely, instead of focusing on 2 things and doing those really, really well. And trust me, more often than not, you'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because often, you know, when you're trying to work on your jumps, you'll be increasing the strength of your glutes and hamstrings, and therefore you'll not only have better jumps, but you'll also have a better arabesque, as well as just better strength in general, and probably balance. All the things usually help each other. Comment down below before the end of this video, what are your 2 top goals that you are focusing on, and what are you doing to take action towards them? I would love to know, and I'm sure I can help if you're unsure of how to help with those goals. So do leave a comment down below. Let's get into this video. Again, this video is a little bit comical, but also, I don't know, you may find these funny, you may find these just disturbing. These are things that teachers used to say to me over the years, like little insults in class. Now, I have quite a thick skin. I like to think so anyway. But a lot of these things at the time probably were quite harsh. And I have spoken to, a lot of the insults were obviously said to me in Russian, and I have spoken to some Russian friends who were, you know, fluent English, and said, you know, the teacher would call me this, you know, and they go, oh my god, that is so offensive, that is so offensive. But obviously, because it was another language being said to me, I probably didn't find it as offensive as it actually is, because it's not my language. I knew what it meant, but it didn't bother me so much. Let's see what you guys think. So let's go back to the Royal Ballet School for a sec. The Royal Ballet School was, let's say, a little bit more subtle with the way that they gave their insults. It was a little bit more passive aggressive, a little bit mind gamey, which, you know, if you know anything about the Royal Ballet School, or people went to the Royal Ballet School, you know, do comment down below, because I'd love to hear your experience with it as well. Some people have a great time. I always like to disclose that. Some people have a not so great time, and some people will have a horrendous time. I definitely didn't have a great time. There was one occasion when one of the teachers said that, you know, my feet looked like boats, and what was happening was my feet were growing really quick, and so I couldn't keep up. As you guys know, in some of my previous videos I've mentioned, I was buying new point shoes left, right and centre. I bought these shoes which were a little bit bigger so that I could, you know, hopefully grow into them and have a bit more just room with my feet. But she said my feet look like boats, and we had a show coming up. This is funny. We were actually at the Vaganova on an exchange, and we were performing Tarantella, which I actually think was pretty dire. It was embarrassing. Like, all of us were like, wow, they barely clapped, because obviously the Vaganova school is so good at character. It's this like yum ba-dum 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 ba-da-da-dum, you know, Tarantella. I know the performance from all of us would have been just extremely flat and just not, and it wasn't that great a piece anyway. One of the upper school students was there with us, and she had much smaller feet, and the teacher, I'm not going to name the teacher, but the teacher said, oh, you know, wear her shoes, put them on. And I was like trying to put them on, and they were definitely 2 sizes too small, and I was like shoving them on, and I was like, they're She was like, I was like, they're a bit small. Like, you know when you can feel your bones like pushing back into themselves? But she's like, oh, you'll wear those. You'll wear them. And I was like, okay, great. Along with that, she like would take my point shoes, the ones that look like boats, and she would break them and snap them. And I had broken shoes and shoes that were 2 sizes too small. So things were going great. And then fast forward to Vaganova, and the insults really kicked in. But they mostly made me laugh. One of the insults was, I used to be called a crab a lot. She used to be like, this is Sydney Copeman now. She used to go, tikak crab, tikak crab. That means, you know, you're like a crab. Not too much of an insult there. It was just funny. It made me laugh, but also I was annoyed because she was basically mocking my glissade. Because my glissade would basically crawl across the screen, like across the studio like that. Glissade, you know, like a crab basically, instead of like being light and glissade. It was so hard for me after my growth spurt to like control my long legs and make myself look light and coordinated and springy. So that took a lot of work. And I remember very, very vividly, I remember a lesson where she was making me do basically a glissade straight leg jeté on my own, again and again and again, because basically I just couldn't do it. I was just crawling. I was keeping my knees too bent. Transition steps were so hard for me at the time. So I'm not offended she called me a crab. One of the other things she used to say to me was, she'd be like, did you come out of your mother's womb turned in? Huh? Did you come out like this? Huh? Which again was quite a shocking image to be given to me. But basically, yeah, she was saying that I was turned in, and I said, I don't think so. I'll ask her. And I say to my mum all the time, Mum, why didn't you stretch me? Why didn't you make me flexible? You know, when I came out of your womb, why didn't you stretch me and put me in frogs 24/7 as well as box splits? Huh? Make my life more simple. And then common things we used to be called is like, you're useless, which in Russian was bistolkovaya. And so I've spoken to Russians, so maybe if there's any Russians watching, apparently that's really offensive. And I just thought that meant, you know, useless, like you're useless. But the next minute, you know, she'd say, umnitsa, which means clever girl. It was definitely a ride of emotions every day. But sometimes, you know, the Russians would cry and leave the room. They were very upset. It got to them a lot more than it got to me. I think if I was spoken in English, then I would probably be crying as well, because, you know, it's not nice. It's not nice, but somehow we just deal with it, and it's just part of the journey. Obviously, part of everything I do now with a dancer's mindset and how I teach people, I'll never say to someone you're useless or an idiot or anything like that. Like, there's no need for it. It's kind of an old school thing, but I'll happily be honest. I'll happily make jokes, you know, but in a sort of light-hearted way, but an honest way, because it's no good either saying, yeah, that's fine, that's good, especially if it's not fine, you know. But it's also not good, you know, stepping on someone's self-esteem and saying they're useless or anything. I was lucky that, you know, I did have quite a thick skin, so I could deal with that. A lot of people can't, and a lot of people get very, very upset, which is only natural. So although this is quite a comical, you know, quite comical looking back now, you know, it does portray a sort of time of life that for me seems quite old-fashioned now, you know. Like, I don't think that needs to happen at all. But these are the kinds of things that would be said to us all the time. I think things can change a little bit, and they are changing. But I do think honesty is the best policy. It's just how you deliver that, and that's really, really important. Despite all this, I did really love my teacher. I thought she was very motivating, and she really instilled that fire in me, albeit with a few insults here and there. And, you know, people would say, like the pianist would say, have patience, you can do it. So I really took that to heart, because yeah, I mean, it's basically what I signed up for. I knew it would be intense, I knew it would be tough, and it was. But yeah, those are some of the insults that were said to me. One that really sticks out, which is horrendous, and it wasn't said to me, but it was said to a friend of mine, which I think was really not called for. But basically, there was this really famous teacher. She's died now. She was actually the owner of the Princess Grace School, Marika Besabrasova, and, you know, she knew Nureyev, and I was actually offered a place at Princess Grace prior to Veganova, but I chose Veganova, and she said, you're making a mistake. I think she was upset that I chose Veganova, but who can turn down Veganova, right? But I was there for the summer intensive prior to going to Veganova. And she used to be carried up the stairs because there was no lift. She used to be carried up the stairs in this big armchair with her long fingers like this, and the boys would carry her up in her armchair. Amazing woman. But she used to ask me, she used to say to us, to the class, and I'll do another video about this another time if you're interested. Comment down below, because this was a whole experience in itself. But she went, so where are your lungs? Where are your lungs? And I said, I was like, is this a trick question? So I went, here. She was like, that was better than the last boy. He said they were down here. And I was like, okay. And then she said, before a combination, do we breathe in or out first? And I said, well, in. She went, no, out. So I was standing in fifth, and I was like, okay, so if I can't breathe in first, then... And I was like, she must mean breathe in. She must not be counting that. Start of the combination. Like, you can't just breathe out. But anyway, the insult she said was not to me, but it was to my friend. I won't name her either, it's too embarrassing. But she said, your popo is like a milkshake. Like this. I mean, that's terrible, isn't it? So basically she was saying, her bum wasn't toned enough and wasn't strong enough. Again, it's just these old-fashioned teachers who come out with these insults. And although I'm looking at it in a comical way, like you're told these comments, and that one comment can change someone's life and make them feel insecure, have eating disorders, have mental health issues, have all kinds of insecurities. It is really, really important that we take that into consideration when teaching people. Like, obviously, what you say matters, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to change any of the older generation teachers, and you sort of have to take that with a pinch of salt and go, okay, they're fantastic teachers, they're amazing, but they do say things that potentially they shouldn't really say. But I think you need to sort of accept that and say, okay, it's not too personal. Like, don't try not to take it too personally. I know that's difficult, obviously, when someone says your popo's like a milkshake. I just be like, okay, thanks. Probably I need to be stronger anyway, so I'll take it with that. But in general, this massively needs to change. So I've definitely had a few insults thrown at me over time, and I've definitely overheard insults as well. That's literally just a handful of them. I don't want to bang on too long about all the insults I've been told over time. But I've had a lot of teachers who have, well, for example, my Russian teacher, even though she used to say, a few harsh things every day, she'd also say some really good things and say, good, clever girl, to sort of balance out the insults. It wasn't all doom and gloom. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It is a learning curve, and it does show how things progress and change over time, and also shows you, there really is like a fine balance between giving someone feedback in an honest way, and this is something I really pride myself in. Giving someone feedback in an honest way, also in an encouraging way, and in a way that doesn't promote self-esteem issues or feelings of insecurity, because you're trying to build someone's confidence up so they can actually perform on stage in a really positive way. I think that is really, really important. So guys, let me know down below if you've ever been insulted, how that impacted you, because I'd be really interested to know, just from a teacher's standpoint now, and also someone who's really into mindset and personal growth. Tell me down below how, what comments the teacher said to you over time and how it affected you. Did you laugh it off? Did it feel like nothing, like, oh, it's fine, no problem? Or did it make you feel bad? Did it make you feel awful? Did it translate into some insecurities over time that really affected you? So yeah, let me know down below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. I'm here to talk about the things that people won't necessarily talk about too much. So let me know also down below. Gosh, you're going to be busy commenting what you want me to talk about next. I'm very open to discussing things that are slightly uncomfortable to talk about, because I'm all about helping you guys and keeping it real and being genuine, which I think is really important, because we need to talk about these things, right? So comment down below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye for now.